Per usual, this channel is for educational purposes only and is not intended as financial advice. I'm going to start with the cloud on the daily Bitcoin chart. What a difference a few weeks makes. We are above the daily cloud for the first time since November 2021. A signal that should not be ignored. Now, we may have another one of these shallow rallies that ends up turning down anyway, but that is unlikely given the fact that we've been bearish for a year. Doesn't mean we won't be bearish for another year, but it does say we have a decent chance at making something happen here going forward. Not too much in the way as far as headwinds. Gox coins, sure. I don't see that as a massively bearish event, even if every coin is sold, which you should just assume all coins in those claims will be sold or have been sold. Not even worth debating that. Of course, when somebody gets a windfall profits like that, they're probably going to sell them. But the technicals are much different. And we're making higher highs instead of higher lows. Great. And there's not too much else to be bearish about here. We're above the volume profile here. This is volume at price. We have some overhead resistance at the yearly pivot. And then around 38K from 26K. So there's a potential pivot to pivot trade there. There's horizontal resistance somewhere around 30 to 33, right? There's a low time frame bearish div here. TKC clamp growing-ish, just starting, kind of similar to this type of situation where we get these rises and tend to retrace to the slower MA. Doesn't always happen. Here's another example here where it didn't happen. But these are all, not necessarily near-term things other than that bear div. So I'm really focused on where could this go in the next 6 months? Where could it go in the next 2 years, realistically? Because we tend to do best a year after halving. So let's say March 2025. Where could we be, right? So let's take a look at that. It's also worth noting that the S&P is extremely bullish, reacted extremely bullish from the Fed meeting yesterday, or Tuesday, whatever day it was, Wednesday. And it's hard to be bearish on this chart. I don't know anyone who is bearish. Let me know in the comments on this chart. I don't care about fundamentals. Fundamentals couldn't be worse. Fundamentals are bottom of the garbage bin bad. Okay. I know that. Everybody knows that. Everybody's super bearish. But the technicals and price are not. The technicals and price are saying, yeah, whatever. We have a bullish 5200 cross for the first time since early 2022. We're above the daily cloud. This is crypto settings, whatever. It looks better on non-crypto settings, but it's definitely above this version of the daily cloud, and it's above 4100, which was the horizontal resistance. It made a new high. I mean, it is extremely hard to be bearish on this. Doesn't mean it will go up forever, but this does look pretty good. I don't think this is a near-term target either. This 45 to 47, basically an all-time high retest. I don't think that's a near-term target. It's probably like a 6 months to a year target, but that's what this pattern measures out to be. It's also just a vanilla pivot to pivot trade, and also out of this diagonal resistance. So it is very hard to be bearish here based on technicals. And we are typically in line with traditional markets on the crypto side of things. Back to Bitcoin though, also nearing a 5200 golden cross, first time since beginning of the year 2022, and that crossed bearish, struggling to get out of this bearish channel, but we're well on our way. We've got 200 week. We've got a yearly pivot. So there's plenty of overhead resistance in the near term, but if we're talking 6 months from now, current outlook is certainly different than it was any time in 2022. And if we can get above this yearly pivot like the S&P, I do like that pivot to pivot trade. And if we're looking at what is the next all-time high potential, right? The first thing you always go to is Fibonacci extensions. Take the high, the all-time high in this case, take the current low, and you measure out the 1618 and basically a 2x. And that's 120K, right? So that's like, for me, the base case. Stupid simple. That's where I like the next bull run to take us. Again, not a near-term target. This is not a monthly target, okay? This is a likely post-halving target, okay? This is not near-term. So fibs tell us at least 6 figures, right, up there. And the MVRV sorry, not MVRV, 2-year MA, also up there around 180, right? So that's even more generous. And then if we want to go to power law corridor, that's around 200. So that's a pretty wide range, obviously, from where we are. Basically from a 5x to a 10x, somewhere in there. We'll know more, once we get there. But those are the levels I'll be watching for many months from now. The 2-year moving average multiplier, green is like the value DCA zone. So the 2-year MA down here, and then the red is the 5x multiple. We are still within that value zone. So even with the nice turn we've had, much like 2015 and 2018, we've got a long ways to go to even come back to that 2-year moving average. So it's very early. If this is a 9-inning ball game, people are still taking their seats. Okay, people are trying to get into the stadium. People are parking their car. Okay, it's super early, and this thing can easily get destroyed and rained out before the game starts. Okay, we got plenty of time. Weekly cloud, I just wanted to mention, also has some interesting levels at 37.5. Really, this just comes down to horizontal resistances for me, not necessarily cloud levels at this point. It's a little too early. This is going to take some time. It always does. It certainly did in 2019. It did in 2015, 2016. And ideally, by the halving, we are within and above the weekly cloud. This was last halving, and we were right there and ready, right? We want to be sort of zeroed out, we don't want to be exuberant going into the halving, but we want to be on a historic path for bullishness so that we're ready to go. And I think the other halving was down here, right? Yeah, down here. But again, we were zeroed out. We had moved up after 250 days of consolidation, and we're consolidating. Bitfinex hack happened. At the time, the halving was a big deal, but we knew that it took time to take into effect, much like it is on ETH, honestly, right now, where that supply reduction will take time. Always does. Maybe not so much early on, but certainly next halving, 6 to 12 months after, is where we get our move. That's the expectation anyway. So Bitcoin looks great. Chart patterns are working out. Chart patterns on the S&P, which people poo-pooed for, continuously, are playing out. I don't care. You can argue whatever you want. But to me, this is an inverted head and shoulders all day. Okay. And it looks as though it's being traded as such. So really what you want to see with any horizontal resistance is a strong breach, which we did see. And then even a retest is perfectly acceptable. So a 4100 retest would be fine in this case. And honestly, ETH looks even more bullish to me. There are some alts that look even more bullish. There were some alts like Sushi, Chainlink. It doesn't really matter what the ticker is as long as there's some sort of fundamental basis. But they have this very tight multi-month range, LTC even to some degree. Very tight multi-month range where it's nearing highs. It's nearing multi-month highs. Now, much like ETH, ETH's actually lagging some of these other coins. But if you look at the cloud, if you look at all the MAs, if you look at the previous all-time high, right? There's no resistance left. It's all reset. All that 2021 exuberance reset. Next pivot's 2K. I like that level. I also like the pivot to pivot trade. 2K to 3K. Perfectly reasonable. It's not going to go there in one straight shot. I would love to see it grind around 2K, much like it's grinding now. But this is perfectly fine. Downside for ETH, probably 15 max, 14 max. There's so many levels down here. The cloud, all these MAs, and this court of last resort is basically this diagonal down here, somewhere around 12, right? So all of that on a technical basis looks amazing. Add the supply reduction pumpamental Ponzi-nomics that they've got going on, and you're good. What are the headwinds fundamentally? Shanghai, maybe it's March, maybe it's September, maybe it's somewhere in between, maybe it happens later. But ETH really hasn't moved since the proof of stake transition. Not that it's really had a reason to. There hasn't been a lot of burning to push ETH deflationary for a long time. So again, these things take time to take into effect. But if you are rooting for having effects on Bitcoin, you can't not root for the supply reduction on ETH, because realistically it's the same principle. Now you might have fundamental differences with ETH and BTC, as do I, but the supply reductions and the expected effects are similar. So not much to be bearish here on ETH, honestly, and we sort of map this out as a Wyckoffean accumulation potentially. I've been talking about this for a long time. It's hard to know what to talk about that I haven't already said. That, is there anything fresh that I can add here to any of this analysis? Not really. It's kind of all the same. We are definitely more bullish than we were a month ago, but the ideas are certainly the same. Here's that horizontal level to watch. Ultimately 2K, but anything 18 to 2K. If we start consolidating and making bullish patterns up here, or we shoot straight through it, obviously that'd be the most bullish, but that's what you want to see, to be certain, right? Here we're sort of kind of will she, won't she make a head and shoulders. People arguing with me that this is not a head and shoulders because it's a diagonal. Okay, sure. I still want to see this cancel for certain, because we don't want another one of these situations where it doesn't matter what the event is, right? We're not going to have another FTX explode unless it's Binance. They're the only thing that's bigger than FTX, but we don't want to set ourselves up for a catalyst in the news to push this lower, right? So BTC is bullish, ETH is bullish, and if we want to sort of try to find levels for ETH based on the cloud, we can flip around. 3-day cloud, maybe an edge-to-edge argument here. TK is not bullish yet, but the level to watch would be 2200 here. I think 2000 is fine. I think 1800 is fine. Any horizontal from this triple bottom here, right? There's plenty of reasons to take some pit stops on the way up. I think even a retrace to 13 is acceptable. Make some sort of inverted head and shoulders fractal with a shoulder yet to be made. That would be acceptable. None of this stuff is turbo bear, new lows. We're going sub 1,000. It's over. That to me is done. We've priced it in the bad news. Bad news keeps happening-ish, and price just isn't moving lower. And just to kind of illustrate the potential on ETH here, for Bitcoin we had this inverted head and shoulders ish fractal shoulder head shoulder that people really hated leading into the move in 2021, obviously having helped us, but ETH has its own supply reduction again that it's going through, that once that thing gets going, watch out, right? And it's very hard to be bearish on that going forward if activity picks up, if burning picks up. ETH also has a little bit of this going on where it's got this ascending triangle possibility where it may take time but make higher lows throughout. So those are the things I'm watching going into the next couple weeks here. That's all for this one. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Like, dislike, share, subscribe, and happy trading.